Hey everybody, this is Nick Wilson with Satori Alliance, and I want to talk with you guys today about the importance of training your team. Okay, so hopefully this video isn't showing up upside down. I was testing it and it was showing upside down earlier, so hopefully it's working okay. So I wanted to discuss a few things regarding training a team, training a staff. And so first off, I want you to think about starting with the end in mind. So let's say that you are a really small school out there, you have 20 students, 30 students, and you want to start training somebody. Okay, so what does that mean? So, okay, I had the ideal team member, the ideal staff member, the ideal instructor. What would I want them to know? And then from there, just start making a list of all the things that you'd want them to know, right? Now obviously us at Satori Alliance, we've already done a lot of that legwork for you with our experience, with Mr. Kovar's experience running schools for, almost 40 years now, and training hundreds and hundreds of instructors over the years. So we have a really clear-cut course through how to train your instructors with the Satori Alliance. But if you wanted to go ahead and try to do that on your own, that would be the first step. Is just start with the end in mind. Think about what are all those things that you'd want an instructor to know. With that said, there are some good habits and bad habits you want to make sure that you avoid, and that's where I think that we can help you with the Satori Alliance and kind of our experience going forward. I kind of like to use the analogy of like a Jujitsu analogy. So when I first started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I was 19 years old, and I'd already been doing martial arts for 10 years at that point. I was already a black belt in karate, and Kempo karate, our base art. And, I could spar for a half an hour, no problem. And then when I started Jiu-Jitsu, my first couple classes of Jiu-Jitsu, I was gassed in like 2 minutes. And I was getting tapped out multiple times by people that had only been training, a couple months more than me. And so in my mind, I thought that I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I could just kind of muscle my way out of it or push something and get out of it. But, those of you that have trained in any kind of grappling art, you can't muscle your way out of in technique, right? So there's a certain way that you need to do things in order to be effective, right? There's a certain way on any move you need to move your hips and you need to use leverage. So there's essentially a lot of right ways and there's a lot of wrong ways to do something. And that's kind of where we come in, is we really want to show you the right way to lead, and the right way to manage your classroom, the right way to communicate, the right way to your right mindset going into class, how you want to think critically about your class, all these different things. So we want to set you up for success. So whether it is you have a large school, thinking large school, at least 250 students or more. You have a medium school, 100 students, 100 to 120, 100, 250 students, or you have a small school that's less than 100. So sometimes what I'll hear is, hey man, I got a small school, I only got 50 students, I don't have any staff, it's all me. I'm doing everything, I'm teaching all the classes, I'm cleaning all the toilets, right? I'm answering all the phones, I'm doing everything myself. I don't have any staff to train, right? And so it's kind of like this catch-22 is, you got to start somewhere, right? Anybody that's ever had a school that has a really big successful school, or even a school that has 150 students, whatever, and they have a couple staff members, at one point in time they didn't have any staff members, right? And it's really important to remember that, is you have to start somewhere. And so what do you do is, what I suggest is you print up a list of all your students, that are teenagers, that are adults, and just go through those students and say, okay, who has potential here? First and foremost, we always look for attitude. Who has the best attitude, right? And then who has, that natural charisma to go out and lead an effective class? Who has a strong work ethic? I always look for that, especially as a martial arts instructor. A lot of times, if a student has strong work ethic, as a student, as a practitioner, they're going to carry that over as a team member, as an instructor. They're going to continue that work ethic. So those are things to look for. And then let's say you have a list of, I don't know, 5, 10 people that have high potential. Then you want to invite them to a special training class. Say, okay guys, we're going to meet on Saturday for an hour and a half and present it like this. Like, hey guys, here's the deal. We're at X number of students. We're at 50 students or whatever. I'd really like to get the academy to 100 students, but I can't do it myself. I need some help on the mat. I need some people to be my assistants, and at some point in time, maybe even hire somebody as an additional staff member. And so that's what I'd love you guys to help me out. And the reason I picked you is all those things I mentioned, right? I appreciate all of you. You have good attitudes. You have strong work ethic. Great students. So I think you guys have high potential to potentially be instructors someday. So, here's one thing that I see also is people out there feeling bad about asking people to volunteer, right? Like, oh, I don't want to ask, I'm not going to pay anybody. I feel bad asking people to volunteer. But the thing we got to remember is, if you're doing your job right as an instructor and you're providing so much value to your students that, most students, if you approach it like that, they're going to feel honored to help you. As long as you're not trying to take advantage of them, as long as you're not saying, hey, I really want you to help out 8 hours a day and everything, but it's like, hey man, I don't want you to help out one class a week or a couple classes a week. I don't think that's taking advantage of anybody. And I know for me, when I became an instructor, when you're an instructor, you learn double, right? Because a lot of times you think you know a move, or you think you know something, and then your students ask you questions, and a lot of those questions you don't know the answer to. So you have to figure it out, right? You either have to think about it, or you have to go to some of your instructors and say, hey, why is it this way? And it helps you have a deeper understanding of martial arts by becoming an instructor. So, and I've had, I actually just ran into one of my former staff members today. I was at Staples, and I was getting something printed, and this young lady, her name's Raina. She's an awesome individual. She was with me all the way from when she was 4 years old, all the way, I think she was with me till she was about 17, 18 years old, and she was one of my staff members, and she ended up leaving and going off to college. But anyway, I saw her, and she was working, and she said, hey sir, I'm so happy to see you. I hadn't seen her in years. And she's like, I wouldn't have this job today if it wasn't for being an instructor at Kovars, being an instructor under you, because I had all these leadership qualities that were already ingrained in me, and I didn't even know it. And when I went on my job interview, they asked me these things, and outpouring out of my mouth was all these things that you had told me that I didn't know were general leadership topics that, that could apply anywhere, not just within a martial arts school. So, what you're doing is, if you're doing your job right, is you're providing a tremendous amount of value to your team members that are volunteers at your school, eventually if they become paid staff, and that carries over to your students, right? So, I know for me, Mr. Kovar was my first instructor and my main instructor, but I know that not only Mr. Kovar, but I've had many other instructors throughout the Kovar's organization that had a profound impact on me. And then I can think back and go, wow, this person said that right thing at that right moment in my life that that made this challenge I was going through in my life bearable, right? And they said that special thing to me. And so, it's one thing that you have to think about too is, and I've talked about this before in other videos, is you kind of have to put your ego off to the side and know that you're not always going to be everybody's favorite instructor. There might be somebody on your team that is going to be even a better instructor than you to certain students. Not to everybody, but to certain students. They're going to have a better connection with them for whatever reason. So I always like to have that diversity with my staff, of kind of that different mixture of personalities and different ways of communication, so they can try to reach as many people in my community as possible. Okay, so again, you got to start somewhere. So the other part of it, okay, so that's if you have a small school. So let's say you have a medium school, you have a large school. That's when it's even just as important, right? That ongoing education. Our big thing with the Satori Alliance is helping raise the standard for our industry, okay? And so with any profession, you have ongoing education, right? You always want to be growing. So bottom line is, if you're teaching now how you taught 10 years from now, you're not really growing, right? You want to continue to grow. And then the other thing to think about, and kind of going back to the small school analogy, is, what do you do when you get sick? Or what do you do when you want to go on vacation and you can't, right? So, do you close the school, or do you, I'm really sick, I can't come in, I'm going to let my senior ranking student take over for me, but maybe their senior ranking as a martial artist, as, their skill, but they've never taught class before, then, you're really letting someone that's unqualified take over your school for a day or a week or whatever it may be, right? So really important that you take the time to train your team. It starts with that first lesson, and then building from there. Once a week, you want to be working with your team, and we have this structured course. All right? And this is my little buddy Calvin. Say hi, Calvin.
Hi. I can't really see the screen.
That's all right. So so this is my son Calvin. He's 7. My daughter's 10. She just started helping out in the younger kids class. So she just started helping out with the 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, and it's been a really great experience for her. Now, obviously, she's not going to be, part of my staff for a long time, but eventually she will, and I hope, right? And we want to start them young with those leadership skills, and it's just, even if, like I said, my daughter doesn't become a professional martial arts instructor like me, she's going to take those leadership skills anywhere she goes in life. Whatever she decides to do in her life, it's just going to benefit her. All right? So if you guys need some help with a kind of a structured program to get your instructors up to speed, help train your instructors, just personal message me on Facebook. I'm happy to give you some more information, and hope you guys all have a good day.
And